And we should be live, guys.
Hey, welcome everybody.
Hello, everybody. Good night.
Good night, good morning, wherever you are.
Good morning, whatever you are.
Good afternoon.
You know, we just had that conversation earlier.
Yeah.
Cool. So we're gonna play a quick video from Future Deluxe before, and sorry, let me just stop my sound. Sorry. We're gonna play a quick video tonight. We have a Future Deluxe, so we're gonna play a quick video, one of the latest work, and after we introduce you guys, our main guests today. Give me just 1 second. Let me share my screen. So we're gonna play the Ecobee. Is one of the latest work the guys did. Let me get some full screen. Cool, nice. So let me get back. Give me a second. Yeah, cool. So today we have Andrew and James, both is from Future Deluxe. They can tell us a little bit more about the studio. So we're gonna have a quick chat with them, talk about a little bit about the situation with coronavirus, especially if you guys have studio in London, LA and Sydney, so it's a little bit more complicated. I think the setup to manage everyone, especially.
You messed up, man.
Bad timing.
Yeah. So how you guys been doing? You guys been good?
Yeah, good.
Very good. Very good. I love the way you say Future Deluxe. I'm gonna.
Got a better name to it.
Sounds more deluxe.
Rebrand.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can sell the trade. I'm gonna trademark and sell to you guys.
So what are you guys drinking?
I'm drinking. We have a in the Brian studio. We have one of those IPA like.
Have a Beer 52 subscription.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
They've always got really nice artwork. Those guys. They got like really nice. The magazine's really nice.
The reality is, these are the last ones left in the fridge, so they're usually crap.
Whiplash. It's only been Andrew in the studio for the past 3 months, so we've had 3 months worth of this subscription, and there's 4 cans left in the fridge. So,
I don't know where they went.
Yeah.
What about you, Thiago?
I'm just drinking boring kombucha today. I'm not drinking. I'm not drinking.
I'm on a gin and tonic.
Yeah.
But I can't remember what gin it is. But it's my wife's cousin bought it for us, so it's I don't know. I think it's from Australia. I think it's from Sydney, actually. Ironically.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good. Whatever it is.
Good.
Cool. So should we start a little bit, just a little small talk about the whole coronavirus situation? You know, it'd be nice to understand how that affect you guys. I'm really interested to know on the side of you guys running 3 studios with big different time zone, and also you guys really heavy in like 3D and experimental stuff as well. So of course it's completely different than everyone can work from home doing 2D stuff when it's a lot of light files and render is light. But how you guys be doing with this situation?
I think probably like everyone else, we went straight to offsite from, I don't know when it was it mid-March?
Mid-March, yeah.
Yeah, and it seemed fairly easy to start with. Obviously, we took all the kit and all the PCs off site, so everyone had their own kit. The difference with the 3 studios was obviously in the different time zones that Corona hit all of those areas at different times and at different kind of scales as well. I think although Australia got it first, they didn't get it to anywhere near the scale that London got it, and then obviously LA and the US kind of got it later, didn't they? And are still getting it.
Still getting second. I think they're getting on the wave now, aren't they?
Yeah,
Because of the whole the mask mentality combined with lots of other mixed messages from the government.
totally. Like California literally went back down into lockdown, I think, last night.
So
Wow.
it was quite difficult for the different studios to understand the situation the other studios were in.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
for example, when Sydney, it wasn't really hitting them that hard, and we're saying, okay, we're being put in lockdown. We don't know when we're going to be going back into the studio. It's quite and like we couldn't even go to their barbers, or like you can't go to a corner shop or anything. It's difficult for them to understand. And then obviously now everything's easing up in the UK, but LA's going back down. It's kind of, it's harder to.
But in terms of the actual studio, like I think as we were saying earlier, the productivity, everything seemed okay to start with, but we did predict that it felt like the studio was working too hard because everyone's doing naturally extra hours because you're at home those extra few hours and you couldn't do anything else in those first few months. And it kind of went like that, the productivity.
Wow.
You could tell at the start this is not sustainable. And I think now we've got 3-4 months in, it's those little cracks are appearing, whether it's from an IT point of view, whether it's just a connection, those ended jobs, those big 3D production jobs when you're kind of having to do that, that's when it's getting testing and things are just breaking down, and which means people doing longer hours, which it's the kit that we've got at the minute and the system that we've got at the minute and the setup isn't ideal, and we're currently looking into ways of working off site moving forward, which will hopefully fix a few things, but as I'm sure most studios are.
Yeah.
So do you feel like it's going to change your studio model a little bit in terms of like number of remote workers, number of on-site workers in the future, and all that kind of stuff?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's going to change. It's definitely going to change the way we think. Would be stupid not to learn from this, I think.
Yeah.
Take away some of the benefits, but at the same time, we need to understand how every kind of member of the team are feeling, and everyone's situation is different. Some people have their work computer like at the end of their bed, so they wake up, they see it, they go to bed, they see it. So you've got this work looming over you all the time. So it's for some people that's really challenging.
That's the benefit of like going to work, where you have that kind of, I mean, obviously everyone's different, but having that disconnect from home and work, I think is quite valuable for a lot of people.
Yeah, and it's that everyone has said, I'm sure everyone you've spoken to said similar thing. The time that people are saving by working at home is obviously, for most people it's an hour to 2 hours a day in varying commutes. But whilst that is great because you've got 2 hours of your life back, or up to 2 hours of your life back, there's something to be said about the commute to work. Whether you walk, whether you go to train, you've got your own headspace. There's something when you're missing that, you're just getting up and going straight to work.
It was always a good time just for you to like work out ideas in your mind. I always felt like when I used to be in London, like commuting like an hour or so to Soho or whatever, you got your headphones on and you can really think quite deeply about whatever you want, and it's just nice that your brain can work out stuff and have that space to do so.
And I give you a little time as well, no? to do your own things. I quite like listen to podcasts when I go to work, especially like on the business side as well. Always helped me quite a lot, like audiobook. And just not having that, it's like, as you said, straight to work, you just go from your bed and
and like you were saying, it's the end of the day as well. Like it gives you a bit of time to decompress. So you don't then get home and you have it all floating around in your head.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think I worry now that a lot of the staff, a lot of the guys they don't have that switch off, so they just still just check the render, or I just have to play with that for another half hour.
So how do you deal with? I guess it's probably goes back to another talk we had, but I guess it becomes a bit of a mental health issue. So how as a studio do you make sure people are all like mentally healthy in that regard? So that's what it's kind of alluding to down the line, and avoiding like a breakdown situation. But it sounds very dramatic, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, it's true. I think it's true. I think this new one is new, so we're sort of feeling around a bit. I think the only thing we can do at the minute is just to talk as much as possible, one-on-one group talks. All of us just sharing and keeping an eye out for each other. It seems to be the simplest way forward at the minute. But
And just people understanding that we've got their backs, and if they need to take some time, or if they want to stop at a certain time every day, that's cool. Like, we trust them 100%. So it's just they're reassuring them, I suppose, as well. Keeping that contact up. Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, we're talking about potentially going into a split week, you know, moving. So say by the end of the year, we may go into a split week. So it's not worked out yet, but say 2 days in, 3 days out, or 3 days in, 2 days out.
That'd be good.
Yeah, and then hopefully from that, you know, what we plan to do is go back 1 day a week, and again, open it up to the whole studio. And if everyone wants to come in, we'll do like workshops, project meetings, social beers, you know, lunch and that. And then gradually,
it's the social beers, really. That makes a difference. Like when you're saying decompression, I was thinking, I mean, like, even if you don't drink, just going out having a laugh with some friends that makes all the difference.
So I think those, you know what it's like in a studio, it's pressure, right? In any job, it's pressure, and we have our pressure buttons, and those beers reset that time having a laugh with your mates in the studio can reset those easily. And when we're not having them enough.
Are you talking about blackout drunk, right?
Completely resets everything.
I think the remote work is make us feel more like it's just work, you know. It's missing the social between the studio, going out for lunch or having a beer, you know, just having a conversation, talk about completely different subject, you know, just having a laugh. That helps so much. I think that's one of the main things I'm missing quite a lot in the studio. I just think it's hard. The guys in the studio just want to go back as well. So it's quite really hard not having that.
And you can't undervalue that thing. I think as Europeans, we probably do it better than most of the world, that post drink. But do
you work to live or live to work?
Exactly.
That's a good question. Right now, it'd probably be a different answer than what it is normally.
I think just missing that social is one aspect. I think it's making harder all this stuff. Looking forward, you know, because we're talking, even me and James been talking about the other conversations. Should we still talking about coronavirus or not? You know, because things easing out. But as you said, you know, you're having studios in different places. Everyone is being hit in different times. But even like the news, you know, been talking about we're gonna get like even worse when we get winter. You know, so I think studio-wise, you know, do you guys think, you know, for future, because it opened quite a lot the opportunity to work with remote people now, you know. In the past, like at least personally for me, I always prefer have people in the studio. It's quite the trust situation, you know. If you never work with the person, can you trust if the person worked from home? You know, how are you guys dealing with that? So you guys more open nowadays with remotely work and looking more into persistent, you know, say in the future, if let's say if that happen or other things happen where we got all locked down again, you know, things get easier.
I think so. I think it's we just got to play it by ear a little bit. But we're way more open now to working with people all around the world, different time zones, 100%. I think it'll be interesting when we come out of this and start to go back in the studio, how we manage a part of a team that may be working together and then another section that are working remote, and how they're communicating. At the moment, we all jump on a Google Hangout to chat about the project at certain times every single day. But if some people are in the studio and some people are off site, the studio people are going to have a casual chat over a coffee in the morning and then not include the other team. So we just need to set up processes and make sure that it works smoothly, however we're set up.
In terms of even when we started FD, we started with the whole premise of being able to work with people all around the world, and actually that was the quite exciting part of it. When we were just one or two of us, it was like, you know, we could dial up a guy in South America that was great at particles, or, you know, someone that did process, and that to me was the fascinating part of what we did. And I think over the 9 or 10 years or whatever it is now, we've fluctuated between that approach, and then we focus a bit more on the studio, and then we reach out a bit more and focus on into that more of a freelance network. And I think where we are now, we're kind of doing both, and it's definitely leaning back into more offsite.
We've also
spread offsite.
There's been a number of times throughout the years where we've had full-time employees that work offsite all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a different country or a different part of this country. So we're quite used to that way of working.
It's kind of interesting with everybody communicating via like Google Hangouts or whatever. It's almost like the early days of the internet where people used to communicate via ICQ. It's like, oh, have you met this person in real life? No, not yet, but he's a friend.
Yeah. In the chat room.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're gonna all go back to be strangers now.
Yeah. ASL.
But no, I think we're definitely leaning more into that now, and as we were saying earlier, it's just broken a few more walls down again, hasn't it? I'll be intrigued to see what happens, post Christmas into maybe summer next year, and seeing. I know we're all talking about a change, and I think we're all supporting a change in some shape or form, but how much of it, whether there'll just be a trend now to work this, or whether it'll swing back, what it'll be. Sure,
yeah, what will stick will be quite interesting as a industry-wide thing.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, I mean, so you guys had a couple of full-time employees who are completely remote anyway. So I guess it kind of puts you in quite a good position before the pandemic hit to, be prepared. Obviously you've done it before in a way, so it kind of puts you in quite a good position.
Not only that, obviously the other studios, we're not.
Yeah, sorry, of course, yeah.
All the time, so we're speaking a lot on Hangouts and projects if we're doing them. If we're splitting projects between studios, again we're speaking kind of virtually a hell of a lot.
So with with the current experience in your mind, obviously there's talk about a second wave, like in winter and what have you. Are you guys starting to prepare that? I think do things a little bit differently from your experience from the current pandemic kind of thing.
I think one thing we definitely learned, and this is everybody, this isn't just us as a studio, is in that first period, that March, April period, where you're trying to solve it, you're constantly this wheel of trying to solve, and whether that's just a project problem or a staff problem or a finance problem, whatever it is, you're constantly, and you're trying to look into this crystal ball that doesn't exist, and it just became framing. And I think what we did in that process was just like, let's stop looking to September. Let's stop looking to, let's just do
It's too far ahead, isn't it? You have to like baby steps in a way.
So fast, it was just.
And we can't control it, so you just have to go with the flow to a certain point. So we just have to deal with what comes. But I think there was a certain amount of panic when we first had the lockdown and the news of the lockdown. But once we started to get into it, I think I'd be relatively relaxed if there is another one in terms of the business anyway.
Yeah, I think I get the feeling it's going to be ongoing, isn't it? I think we're just going to get wait
until there's some kind of cure, some kind of vaccine. I think it's just going to keep going and going. I reckon.
Yeah, I think it's been really complicated.
Yeah, it's much more nerve-wracking I've got a lot of friends that work as DOPs or directors, photographers, and it's much more nerve-wracking for them, because if we go into another lockdown, they can't work again. Or people are afraid of going into another lockdown, so they're not putting those kind of live action projects in.
I mean, what do you do if you're a DOP? Is there any government support? I mean, obviously we've got the furlough scheme, but if you're a sole trader or what have you, is there any? I should have probably have looked into it before starting the live stream, but But it's very close to our industry, and we rely a lot on like live action shoots as well to integrate our graphics.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, last week I went to shoot some product for a Christmas commercial we're doing, and the guys on set was the first job they had on a year.
Was it like mistletoe masks?
Everyone had a mask, but it was
Oh,
I think-
mistletoe mass, that's genius. Oh, okay, I should have said it on a
But people,
fucking live
but
stream.
they didn't really, like, it's not they didn't really care, but they more worry, not being working than, get coronavirus. You're getting the situation like we in July and people doing the first shooting. So I think
It's
we're
difficult
quite
having to balance your your livelihood with your life. At the end of the day, and not just your life, but your family's life. So you don't know who's going to be like particularly susceptible to the virus either.
yeah.
And I
Did you
think
guys? Sorry.
even outside of the specific skill sets like like a DOP or photographer or whatever, we as our part of the industry, we're not out of the woods yet. I keep thinking if there is another way, it's going to hit the brands at some point. They're going to start tightening up. So I think that's the obvious concern without being doom and gloom.
I think when the budgets come in next year, I think they're going to be probably substantially lower. I would imagine. I think that's when it's really going to hit.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I mean, hopefully not.
We'll go into that next phase of negotiation again.
Yeah. Did you guys feel any difference work-wise? We're talking about live action and animation, of course, not being able to shoot any live action stuff. A lot of clients came trying to shift things for animation. Did you guys had that transition? A lot happened with you guys feel happened with you guys, or are you guys just running like normal?
We had a few projects come in because they couldn't shoot them, and that's great. But the majority of the work is, I'd say, the same as what it was before. I think one of the great things I've seen is that it made, when you work in animation, CG, we're typically come as kind of number two to live action. For most of the ad agencies out there, they'll think live action first. And something like what we do, which is kind of abstract CG, is much like further down that list. And I'm hopeful that it's made people a little bit more open to thinking in that way and thinking about other ways of doing it other than just kind of filming everything. How can they do it in CG? How can they do it in more traditional animation?
It's interesting that the agencies still think of like live action as like the the thing to go to, when sometimes a creative suits animation a lot better, and going live action is like a forced route. It's almost like, I don't know, it's like client porn, isn't it? Just to appease a client. It's like, ooh, you've done a live action commercial. Wow.
Yeah.
And I think also, that there is all the Hollywood to client to be on set, agents want to be on set, and the animation is you just behind the screen, they come to you, maximum you do, you pay them a nice lunch, and then
how annoying is it to have a bloody client? How annoying is it to have a bloody client sat next to you whilst you're animating? It's like, do you want to check back in about 5 hours? I'll show you in half a second.
What should we talk about? What renders?
Yeah. But also, I think I don't know. I think agency still has old mentality, a format, and the way they work is still, that's what they understand. They understand more live action side. So you get.
There's also this thing of it's easier. Like you speak to anyone outside of our industry, and they've got a pretty good idea of how a live action shoot will work.
Yeah.
You go onto a set, there's someone that deals with the lights, there's a director, there's someone shouting, and whereas animation, people just don't really know how it gets made. They don't.
We're shouting on the inside.
Yeah, there's a lot of shouting still going on. It's just not on set.
But they don't have an understanding of that process.
No.
There's so can be quite intimidating for some clients.
And I think that just be nice to know from your perspective as well. You guys doing more the abstract animation. That's quite even harder now, because when it's character animation, you can explain the storytelling. At least they have, you can explain using a little bit of the process of live action, but translate for animation. But when you guys doing R&D, needs to come with concept, then no one saw that before. It's even harder, you can't really explain to them.
No, it's true. It is. Even within the studio, there's not many people that can sell in the abstract side of what we do. It's a tough one.
Yeah. I think you learn to get better at it, and to paint that picture a little better, and to use. We do.
I think it's easier for us to show by example with the property and the abstract stuff than to put a sort of copy-led treatment together or something like that.
But that can be quite tricky because especially if you're pitching, you end up doing like half the job before the job's awarded. So how do you manage that kind of side of things as a studio as well?
Well, I suppose there's two sides to that. Like we try not to pitch recently, like from a London studio, we try not to pitch. We try and talk the client or brand into a paid R&D phase, which, you could argue it's the same thing, but it just gives us that bit more freedom to show what we can do. And it also cements how serious they are as a brand.
And it gives us the opportunity to kind of work with them as well, to discover something, as opposed to just making their storyboard.
Yeah, true.
But then the flip side is like we invest a lot of R&D time outside of commercial projects, and we've always done that, and that's kind of been our thing. And it drives these little ideas or these little toys or these little learnings from different platforms or different software, so that potentially when we kind of get into pitch situations or we can see something coming up, sometimes some of this learning that we've already done kind of slots in. Sometimes it doesn't, but we call it future play, and 2 Wednesdays a month we just switch off from commercial. So we shut down on those two Wednesdays, and the brief to all the artists in the studio and all the creatives is just do something progressive, and you can do whatever you want. And then when we're in the studio, we all sit down and review that every week, and we just share. That's that.
Nice.
That's a good idea, yeah. It's nice that I think a lot of times when you do kind of like studio-led projects or personal projects, work comes out of that, because you can see that, you can put together an idea that a client, it'll be impossible to sell to a client, but once they see it, it's like, oh damn, that's nice, and then obviously generates more work out of it.
We get so much from it. Like it's always been a challenge, because we're going through one of those challenging periods with it now, because we're all creatives. We all get bored quite easily, and when you come up with something new, we used to change its name every year, and you change its name and everyone go, oh, what's that? And it's like, well, it's the same. It's basically experimenting, but we're just kind of trying to give it a bit of life again. And I think when you give creatives the freedom to do what they want, even when they've been screaming out for that for so long, and when they've been under heavy commercial projects, when you're given that much freedom, sometimes people just hit a brick wall, and that frustrates them. They just don't know where to go.
Yeah, sometimes you need a bit of a direction in a way to truly flourish, or some people do anyway.
Totally. So it kind of it needs regenerating every so often, but it's experimenting. It's meant to fail, and I think people get wrapped up. Oh, it's not working. It's like, it's always going to fail. Occasionally it'll come up with a bit of gold, and that's the point of it. But then 80% of the time it will fail. But
failures are the most interesting. It's not necessarily a failure per se. It's just maybe not how you intended it. But that can also lead to like interesting new places.
Yeah, it's just about the team kind of learning and exploring things that they want to explore, and us not having to wait for a client project to come in order for them to try out a new piece of software or try and create something in a new aesthetic. Gives them a chance to be in control of the work we're doing, which I think is really good.
Yeah, it's cool. And can I ask you guys, just like, I think like all these abstract animations is really trendy nowadays, especially with a lot of people trying to learn Houdini and stuff like that. Could you guys tell us a little bit how you two start, how you start Future Deluxe as well? What is your background, just so people can understand where you guys came from.
And the name too, like where did the name come from?
The name's Andrew's doing.
Yeah, it's my doing. I can't actually remember why. I used to freelance for a bit before we actually started the studio, and it was one of those limited company freelance names I came up with. I can't remember why. I think it's back in the days of kind of Matt Pike and his Universal Everything. It was around that. Come up with the biggest, like, endless kind of word that will never date. I'm not sure I cracked it, but there you go.
But yeah, we both come from design backgrounds. and then both of us went into advertising, and Andrew probably more so from a design side, and me from more of a kind of film and concept side. And then both met. Andrew had started FD, and then I came down to Brighton, met him, and then started working together, like kind of 2 years in or something like that.
Yeah, a year or two in.
And I think it was more at that stage, it was just about trying to figure out the projects we wanted to be doing and the things that excited us at that time. And we just started making stuff. And there wasn't really any kind of plan, I suppose, at that stage on like exactly where we wanted to be. It was just we wanted to make some cool shit and thought we could do that together.
Neither of us come from a 3D background, which I think some people still quite fascinating. Like literally, we have no knowledge of any 3D whatsoever. But when I started FD, I was fascinated with the technology aspect. I came from kind of design, but then interactive, and I was always fascinated by that technology layer with the design. And the first couple of years was just doing these really rough and ready projects that were either code-based, film-based. We liked things where we were mixing up aesthetics or production techniques and trying to find, but they were quite raw and rough around the edges those first few years. And then the CG stuff just started to come. I don't know why.
I think it was we fell in love with the speed in which we could visualize stuff in cinema. Like you could visualize an idea pretty quickly, and that was great. That was kind of new.
And I was always quite fascinated by the procedural approach, which you know is norm now, isn't it? When you talk of Houdini and lots of other software, but
that's a very graphic design kind of thing to latch onto, isn't it? Procedural.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Systems.
I just remember collaborating with coders in those first couple of years, and suddenly realizing that you could train this bit of code to do X, and you wake up in the morning and there's 30 different designs to choose from, rather than you slaving over one design. And that process of working in that way became the kind of, one of the formats which we still work in. I think that whole kind of working with computers and working with software to just work differently. And it's kind of the core of how we work with R&D. It's just keeping everything really wide. It's rather than going down one direct path, like we want to do this image, it's like, let's try 30 images. Let's try 25 images. Let's just keep it as wide as we can until we hone in on a style or an idea or a concept.
How does that work as a studio? Because if you're going down lots of different design routes, I mean, everything like you guys have done still has like a Future Deluxe signature style to it. Even if it's like an unwritten thing that just seems like Future Deluxe. It's not necessarily something tangible. But if you're going down all these different routes, how do you make sure it all kind of fits in as a body of work?
I don't think we care too much about it fitting in as a body of work, if I'm honest. I think
it just kind of happened then, in a way.
Well, yeah, we're always focused on the project at that point and doing the best job for that project and that brand. And the signature style or look, I think, is more of a coincidence than anything else. Or just kind of naturally flows out.
Or it probably, if there is something there, which I'm sure there is from anyone looking in, it probably comes from the people that we hire and the styles of artists that we've attracted, over the years. We used to, we always joke about this. We used to
went for a black and shiny phase.
We went for a black and shiny phase back in.
I think half of London did as well.
And then we always used to laugh. There was the Flyknit phase when everyone started doing sneaker ads and everything, strands and whatever. And you get pulled into those probably by clients, subconsciously.
Yeah, and clients normally like what they've seen before, no?
Exactly.
Yeah. But we did make a pact about 3 or 4 years ago to try and get out of that. That kept coming up, the Future Deluxe style, try and actually diversify.
Yeah.
And Curtis came on as a CD about 1.5 years ago, and he told me that his one job was to get everything dark off of our site and make it a brighter place. He's getting there.
But we do. It's interesting to think about that kind of signature style and whether you can look at our work and tell it was us. We did a project a little while ago that we're doing more projects now that we're not allowed to tell anyone about. Not allowed to talk about at all, and it went live, and we couldn't tell anyone we worked on it. We still can't, but it's interesting watching people guess like who had done it, and whether people get it.
Do you keep searching social medias for the project to see who did this? you can see like bad suggestions as well.
Yeah. It's kind of when the conversation veers off and they go, we think it's, I'm not going to name, another studio, and you can't say anything. You're like, no, it's not. You go and say a thing.
Yeah, it's great. Talking about just like people asking us quite a lot, what you guys normally look on, you're talking about artists you guys attract to work with you guys. What normally you guys looking when you're looking to hire someone, what was the key elements you guys normally, just like some tips for people that want to work with you guys as well?
I think the number one, like someone's portfolio, and two, the work in their portfolio that is, if they're kind of, they're beginning their career, it's the work that they want to be doing, and maybe the R&D work or the tests they're doing off their own back, not so much the kind of the three branded projects that they manage to get out of the studio they're working at. I think the one thing we ask whenever we have anyone in for an interview is, what do you want to be doing? What's the work that excites you? And that's the thing that we're most interested in seeing, I think.
So experience doesn't really matter as much as long as you've got the passion there in a way. So you can be starting out. Don't let that put you off. Presenting your work to you guys, kind of thing.
100%.
I think we always look for that experimental angle, and experimental. That's quite a wide gamut of work, but it's just something. It doesn't have to be polished. It doesn't have to be the best. I think we've all seen in the past few years, people get so wrapped up in the software and do the best Houdini tutorial or the best C4D tutorial. It's not about that. It's about there's something in there. It could be the roughest piece of work that person's done, but there's just something in it that kind of makes you think this
it's the ideas there, kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think the other thing, massive thing, is personality. We work with these people day in, day out, and that's
why I work remotely.
Thought so. But yeah, it's a personality thing. It's do we click? We have a no dickheads policy. So do they fall under that bracket? I think it's just, there's that kind of natural click as well. Sometimes you meet someone and you're like,
How do you deal with that when in the current situation where you can't necessarily meet the person in person?
We've done that. I think we've recruited loads of people via Zooms, Hangouts in the past. When people are coming from abroad, typically we can't meet them face to face. If we can, we'll fly over, or if they're in the country, we'll meet them just to see how that conversation flows. But if not, it's just virtual.
Yeah, but I think it is a good question though, because we have tried it in the past. With a lot of people come over from Europe, as James said, or a couple of other countries outside of Europe. But there's nothing better than working with someone in a kind of studio to get to know them.
Yeah, exactly.
You have that kind of period of 3 months where you really get to know someone and you kind of click. I think it's going to be a challenge moving forward now. We've got a couple of people coming on over the next two months, and it's going to be a challenge for them and for us, because you want to integrate them into the studio as soon as you can, but this is going to make it tougher.
It's going to be tricky. Clicking online and then meeting somebody in person can be vastly different. Sometimes people have different personalities behind the screen, and if you meet them in person, they're maybe a little bit more reserved or a little bit shy, that kind of side of things. It's interesting.
I think we'll change quite a lot as well, because it's like we've been talking on the show, we're talking about diversity as well, with how we can bring a little bit more like the diversity to the industry, you know, but like with like Instagram nowadays, you know, you don't really know the artist anymore, you know, it's all like about the work. So it's even make, and what James saying, you know, about sometimes people is really shy, but
Yeah.
you know, when they behind the screen, they completely different person, you know. So
Yeah, I feel like Instagram is more like your extrovert personality in quite a lot of ways.
Yeah, totally. But I think like we have a mix of personalities. Like some people are extroverts, some people are introverts at FD.
Thiago's a pervert.
But it's like, yeah, we don't expect everyone to be incredible. Like,
yeah,
we don't expect everyone to be extroverts and super chatty and anything
Man,
like
you wouldn't want that anyway. Like a studio
Yeah.
full of like extroverts, like, oh,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's more about, I think it's more about how people work, isn't it? And people,
Mm.
you know, personalities within a studio have to find their way of working within a studio that essentially they can do their best work. Yeah, I do think moving forward, if we stay in this kind of lockdown, you know, whatever shape or form it is, it will be harder to bring people on and bring them into the kind of group and integrate them quicker. That's gonna be a challenge, a new one.
yeah, I think we're gonna need to start thinking new format. I think we're going just thinking not having people in the studio. We're going through a similar phase with education, because education, you used to go to college, but they start creating a lot of online courses now where people just go and don't meet each other. You know, you end up having that problem when people don't create that, you know, like social skills, you know, to work in the studio and everything. So I think we're gonna get in that phase where it's gonna, I don't know if it's gonna generate a problem, but it's gonna be funny to see what's gonna come out of the.
Yeah,
So it must be pretty intimidating for people just graduating and looking for internships and their first job, and then having to join that remotely is going to be pretty peculiar.
Yeah, how do you do a virtual internship? Because a lot of that is being on site.
And kind of proving yourself and doing odd jobs and doing, you know,
and soaking in all that atmosphere around you.
What about Soho? Sorry, Taya. But like Soho as well, like, you know, when a lot of your internships are basically, you know, you're running machine rooms and going for this, that you're a gopher, aren't you? You know, and you can't get that experience at all.
No.
So that's going to be really difficult.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any interns at the moment on the studio?
No, not at the moment. We are now just starting to run a new sort of like a diversity group, which is our focus is reaching out to kind of unis over the next few months and trying to make those connections much wider than we ever kind of did before. Because I think, you know, as we're saying, it's gonna take a lot of work. We always used to have unis come in and do talks, or we'd go out and do talks, but I think, as we're saying, this is all going to fall down a little bit over the next year. So we're having to make that kind of extra effort and make those contacts.
And we need to build a structure that it works for us to have internships in, and it's going to take a little bit of work in order to do that, and figure out how we're going to run it. But we've got a team on it at the moment, trying to figure out how we can do it.
Because you're right, you know, kind of being an intern is about being supported by elder people and skill sets in the studio and learning from them.
Exactly.
Studio, it's like, how does that work?
Yeah, I think
it's tough.
You've been talking to other studios as well. It's I think it's something we're probably gonna need to, as a group, you know, trying to find a solution. How, you know, if that situation turns to be something happens, I'm not gonna say frequently, but, you know, happen often, you know, and how we're gonna keep training people, you know, how we're gonna keep bring them up, you know, to give the skills, not being physically in the studio. I think that's gonna affect a lot our industry.
It's interesting because it may just be a load of old men worrying about these young kids not being able to kind of settle, but they're so used to working online. They probably have their skill sets and the way they use the internet so much better than we probably do. So maybe there isn't this concern, but I don't know, it'd be interesting to see. Maybe
This is how old age happens, isn't it?
yeah, exactly.
But in terms of us as a company, like we've always had young people come through the studio, and that's always been part and parcel of the style of work. And I think if it slows down, it'll be a big problem for us at the studio, a huge problem.
Yeah, we've had amazing talent come straight from university, like all the way up. And it's always so nice when we can have that happen, and it'll be we need to do whatever we can to make sure we don't lose that.
What are so you guys seem to work quite a lot with the various universities, but what are your thoughts on kind of like the education system in the UK in regards to animation? Because when you look at like the French schools like Super Infocom, Gobelins, everyone's built towards working straight into the industry. Whereas I feel like in the UK, I think there's a massive gap between getting your degree and working in the industry. Like, I remember on my course a long time ago, people who've got like a first were like, yeah, I'm amazing, I can go straight into any job. And obviously, that's just not the case. There's such a divide between working in a studio and doing your own thing for your degree course.
Yeah, I agree. I think we've been having a lot of these chats around the diversity issue as well, about when you go to unis, there seems to be such a diverse audience at that uni, and by the time they come through into the industry, like we've lost 90% of these people. Like, where are these people going? Like in the UK, where
that's a good question, actually.
But yeah, you're right. I think, the likes of Super Infocom and a couple more of those European institutions, they seem to nail it year after year after year.
Even Hyper Island as well. I mean, obviously Hyper Island has started, I think they're in the UK now as well. But they've always done great in terms of getting people ready for traditionally graphic design and also motion design as well.
But I think Hyper Island is a different system, where they don't really have teachers. It's not a curriculum like a normal university. They don't really have teachers. It's more the students go and have that time to really push themselves, and they have mentors. And they have mentors that come and do a little workshop. It's about more, I think, teaching themselves and go and learn.
But maybe that's a good thing, because they've always, generally put out pretty good high standard students from what I remember.
Yeah. And it's free, no?
Is it free?
Yeah, it's free. If you're Swedish, I think it's free.
All right, if you're Swedish,
yeah.
I was going to say, it's probably not free in the UK.
Nah. I don't know how it works here.
You pay a shitload.
Yeah, I think internship is going to be a little complicated situation for, I think that is going to affect us in the long run.
Hopefully the universities, the good universities over here, all the lecturers running those courses will put that effort and time in to help their students get into internships, be reaching out to companies and figuring out, okay, how can we do it together, as opposed to just leaving it to us. Like, okay, they've got it, so we don't need to worry about it. I think it's about collaborating. So it's because it's new, and it must be extremely frightening for these graduates. We did a kind of there was me and one of the other guys from the studio, and then a couple of the guys from Golden Wolf. One of the universities, Winchester University, did a degree show presentation to us, and the lecturer there was really good in terms of like pushing it and asking us to jump on this call so the students could present their work, because they couldn't go to New Blood or whatever it was in London. And he was really passionate about kind of getting them in front of people in the industry, and that's really good. But some of the lecturers at some of the universities won't be pushing for that.
No, I do feel like this is a bit of a broad stroke, but some of the teachers are basically, those who can't teach. And I know it's kind of a bad thing to say, but I do, just because of, like, I went through the university system up here in Leeds and what have you, and there was definitely people there who didn't really care, just wanted a bit of a paycheck, and that was it, not pushing the students.
I went to Leeds University.
Did you? Yeah. All right.
Last week I did some student reviews, portfolio reviews for some students, and most of them was really worried, with all the situation, how it's gonna affect the industry, And talking about that, do you guys see, the industry a part of remote work changing much, like in nearly future? Do you think it's gonna affect us in a way?
In terms of how we work, or
I think
industry?
the how we work and because we'll change. I don't know. Talking to a lot of friends in agency, I saw a lot of friends lost work at the moment. Agencies just shrink as well, and how we work and the amount of work we get may get affect.
Yeah, I think I was having a conversation, right, I'm sure we've all had these, but I had a conversation with an old colleague at the start of lockdown, which was trying to recap that period. I'm not sure how long ago it was, maybe in 2000, when that whole, like, the dot-com bubble burst. And whilst it's slightly different, what was interesting at the time was it was pretty scary. It felt like the whole industry had kind of collapsed, but it's almost like 50% of the industry survives and a new kind of breed almost comes through. And some of the more older traditional establishments start to drop off, but this new breed of young talent and startups and artists kind of come through and regenerate it. And I'm not sure whether this is going to be the same, but I think the traditional side of the advertising industry had been waning a little bit. Careful what I say now, live on YouTube.
Don't want to put off any clients.
No,
except for these guys.
Yeah.
Also, if we think, talking about situation with lockdown, that means as more people need content to watch, as more people spend more time in front of the screen on the computer or screen on the mobiles, So advertisement in a way, I think it's like what you say. I think we need to shift the way we're going. It's still like that kind of old. It's the same we're talking about why Asians go, for live action and they don't do as much as animation. We're still talking about kind of a dinosaur system that needs to be renovating, and it's like you said, talking about students doing the internship, they probably less worried than us, because they used to all this communication on the internet. So I think sometimes, just on top of my head, what you're talking about, maybe we just worry about something is nothing, it's just
my thinking.
Yeah, it's quite a new way that things gonna come and change,
I think if anything, it's gonna, we're talking earlier about maybe end of this year, next year, the budgets are going to shrink, inevitable to an extent or some scale. And it just, what that does is it drives new ways of working. It will kickstart or accelerate the ways we have to approach jobs. We have to look at them differently, and whether that's new software, new production processes.
It's that classic mantra, isn't it? Like work smarter, not harder.
Yeah. And the things that have been on the kind of cusp of kicking off, whether it's, for us, it might be real time, CG, or other things. We'll just push them faster, and we'll have to go down routes potentially to be more economical, as well as exciting new creative that's attached to it.
I have to admit, I quite like coming up with creative when a project's restricted, and I think I guess this is kind of a similar thing. If the budgets are restricted, you come up with a project that suits the budget, but it's kind of nice to come up with a solution that looks really good with a lot of limitations. And it's like, oh yeah, I made this work. And I think sometimes it's quite satisfying when you kind of pull it off.
Yeah.
It's part of the challenge, isn't it?
And I think the hard times bring the best out of us as well,
And we started in a recession.
We did.
So, and I think we played that to our advantage because we were new, we were young, we were hungry. We could probably beat.
Say that now.
Yeah. Budgets and the cost of others, and it's just adapting, playing. It's making the most of the situation you're in.
I think it will drive a whole wave of startups for the creative industry in London and beyond. And I don't know, that's quite exciting. And they'll come in and they'll undercut us by a third, and they'll be way and they'll be way quicker and smarter about it.
Man,
And
there's a film, and I can't remember what it was, but there's a line that goes, "I suck your dick for a cheeseburger, man." That's what it's going to be like. Oh, what's it? It's like Boys in the Hood or something.
How
It's like a
much you like a
crackhead.
cheeseburger, James?
Not from you.
Yeah, I think I think be very challenging but exciting at the same time. Times ahead. Just
or we might get to next year and nothing's changed. Joe.
nothing changed. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah.
Didn't even get a cheeseburger.
So guys, we
if the next one of these you're eating a cheeseburger.
You know what happened.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make sure I take a picture, James. Yeah. So we getting close to 1 hour, guys. So let's pick like last 1-2 question so we can.
There was a question on YouTube from Marina Supernova. I hope I didn't pronounce that wrong, so I apologize. But they said, does your previous experience working in advertising benefit running Future Deluxe at all?
Yes. I think in the beginning, we needed to figure out why it did benefit. And I think after, over the years, we've realized that what it gave us was an understanding of that what we're doing has a job to do. It's not just there to look pretty. It has to work for a brand, or it has to sell something. We're not, however much we want to be, we're not just making art. We're making something that, has a message to get out there. And it gave us a kind of firm understanding of that, like how important the brand was in the work we were doing. Just making sure we were thinking about that all the way through.
I think it's an important part of our industry now. You talk about that Instagram culture. It's very art-led, and it's well, as creatives, we're all very fond of in different ways. But the reality is, when we're in a commercial job, as much as we like to play in that space a lot, we've still got to actually deliver a commercial job on time for a commercial brief. So I think sometimes some of the younger artists that come through just have to be sort of gently reminded, like, that looks amazing, but did you see the proof?
Yeah, true.
And I know that feels like an old thing, but it still happens.
I think it also gave us a kind of really good understanding of what advertising agencies go through, and to try and fight against, one of our biggest things is always try and fight against that us and them that is generated with clients. And we try to not be kind of down or negative about our clients, and try and put ourselves in their position. And when they're making changes that we don't like, trying to understand why they're making them.
I mean, sometimes it's a case of having to do the changes and then just to show stuff doesn't work anyway.
Yeah.
It can't be too precious.
Yeah, some people like to see that, and they like to go through that process.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to think as well. I think it's especially what you said. Sometimes you need to remind the young generation. We're still delivering a brief. We're delivering a commercial, and I think we get into the artist syndrome when people are so pressure about what they're doing, and they completely forget you're getting paid to design something for someone or for a brand.
Yeah, exactly. And we all know when we get that sweet spot of like the art and commercial, and they're picking all boxes, that's the best place. But sometimes that's just steered down that path more than not.
I think it's quite an important thing to learn as well. After when you come out of university, that's one of the most difficult things to learn. Is that at the end of the day, it's for the client. It's not your personal project.
Yeah, and it's a collaboration with them. It's not.
Yeah, it has to be.
It's not all your idea. You have to bring them into it.
Even if
artists to paint something,
they want to go over a route that you don't like, then you can always have a version for yourself anyway. So it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Save the version you like for your portfolio. It's all good.
Yeah. Or just don't present a version you don't like. That's
Yes, even better.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Let me ask you maybe the last question. How do you guys keep on top of your game and keep your work looking fresh? You know,
Good question.
Employ really good people. Way
Employ
better
people
than
that are way
us.
better than us. Yeah.
And step back.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that is it. It's that whole thing about changing your look and always keeping a diverse output starts with some of the best people that you can hire. And we are so fortunate to have an amazing team. And you know, we're not Future Deluxe anymore, and we haven't been for a long, long time. But yeah, without the team that we have, we don't have anything. We don't have a studio. So I think it starts with finding continuously some of the best people to collaborate with, not only internally but externally as well. Like we've been big, like we said, on collaborating with people where we can, and I think that always adds that new fresh layer to it, as well as an internal team always.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, I think collaboration is a big part, you know, of the job, not as part of the team as you said, but like client wise as well. You know? Yes.
And it gets, you know, it gets the team excited if we're collaborating with an artist that's new and up and coming, or you know, whatever that thing is. It's just as exciting for the team as it is for us. It's keeps us, you know, we're creatives, we get bored easy. We need something new, whatever that thing is.
There's no I in Future Deluxe.
There is no man Future Deluxe. There's a lot of E's.
I think also that experimentation side of it keeps it interesting and fresh, I would hope, because it allows us to explore like new looks and new aesthetics and new tools and stuff, instead of just rehashing the same idea. And it allows us to drive the new projects we're doing, because we put stuff out. Basically, I think we learned quite early on that people will come to us for our last project. So that's how you get in this loop of just doing stuff that's black and shiny. And if we could put something in there, if we paid off our own back, or we put something out there that was the type of work we want to be doing, and people will come to us for that.
But I think there's going back to your original question, I think there's a huge part to standing back. Like me and James learned a few years ago, we kind of almost stopped directing 3-4 years ago because we were hiring people that were way better than us. And also as creative directors now, we're not really hands-on. We're very much standoff, and sometimes we get pulled up for that. But it's intentional, because sometimes it will go wrong if we stand off too much, but it just allows that space for people to do their thing. And it allows that space for us to come up with different styles, which if we're hands-on, it's never going to happen, because we're naturally difficult to what we are.
Did you guys find that difficult to it's almost like transitioning into like a new role, isn't it, really? Because obviously in the creative scene, it's quite difficult to set yourself aside when it's your company or your project or whatever you're doing. It's quite a difficult thing to do. So how did you guys find the transition?
Trial and error. I think
it's taken a long time.
It has taken a long time, and we still slip up every now and again. But I think we just need to remember we employed these people for a reason, and giving we always say that we don't make people earn trust, we just give it to them, and just letting them run with it, trying our best to kind of step back or like steer them and kind of more coach people, I suppose, and know that we're there for them if they want
like back rubs and stuff like that.
Yeah, or like when people get into sticky situations or tricky areas.
Not that kind of back rub.
Yeah. But it's just being there for them, I suppose. But trying to have ownership over it.
We're quite good at checking each other, I think. If I get too involved, James will pull me up, and if James jumps into someone else's deck when he shouldn't do, I'll pull him up. So we're quite good.
It's that support that makes all the difference, though, isn't it? Like, it's like, someone who's good at their job, just willing them to do better and all that kind of side of thing. I think the support is the crucial part.
And it does lead to occasional, I wouldn't have done it like that quietly. But then the reason I'm not doing it like that is because we want to change it up.
And we'd only grow so big if we were directing every single project.
Yeah.
We could only do so many projects at once.
Yeah.
Yeah, it limits things. Like, obviously it would be difficult to have a LA and Sydney studio if it's just basically all on your backs kind of thing.
Yeah. And so to close the conversation, what are your plans for the future? Andy, hey, ask, and keep moving in the same direction or diversify?
The future deluxe.
Future. Good question. I think for us, the immediate future is getting Sydney and LA are still quite small, and LA has been a challenge because it's LA and it's America and it's a completely different culture. Sydney, has its challenges. So I don't think we still need to build those studios. We won't make them massive, but we still want to get them to the place which is nearing kind of London. And I think that's enough for us to kind of keep ourselves busy for the next year or so.
Maybe.
It sounds like you're quite ambitious.
I don't think we're going to be a 7 studio agency type model. We haven't got any desire to do that. I think actually opening these 2 studios up has reminded us why we haven't got a desire to do it. But I think the key thing is just doing new work that excites us. And I think as long as we're still excited by something new, and we are quite fascinated with the new aspect of it, the minute that goes, I think the minute it's time for us to step back completely.
The best team we can, trying to get the best people in the world on board, I think, and doing more exciting projects. And we still get we're still super excited by every project we're doing. We're still we still have a massive passion for it. So it's just trying to kind of maintain that and keep pushing ourselves.
Is there any one company that you haven't worked with yet that you would really, really like to work with?
We haven't done that much automotive work, and I think I'd like to do a bit of automotive work. Love to work with SpaceX.
Oh, that would be interesting. Yeah.
NASA, someone like that would be quite.
Something.
I can imagine Elon as a client being quite frustrating though.
Lots of them calls.
Yeah, someone that's just going to do something crazy. Elon is just willing to do something crazy and obviously got the money for it. Someone like that would be amazing.
Yeah. Just different things. Just keep trying to kind of move in different directions, I suppose. But we don't know what those are yet.
Future.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, we're just hitting 1 hour and 10 now. So I think we should
wrap
now. But guys, thank you so much. Great insights, and it's nice chat with you guys. And
it's been really good.
Thank you.
I think it was quite inspiring for everyone, just to understand the process you guys work as well. And I think a little bit about the future, what
definitely
surprise us. But thank you so much.
I heard a lot about James's cheeseburger.
Yeah. Well, I will post a picture.
If you can take one thing away from this talk, take away the cheeseburger.
Not sure I want to physically take it, but
I will find. But thank you so much, guys. We, as everyone probably know, we're doing every 2 weeks now. So next week we have a break, and we come back the following week with B.
28th.
On the 28th, and we're gonna post on the following week with all the news as well. But again, guys, thank you so much. It was really good chat.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot. See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.